He's so emotionally flat. I need someone who actually lives. That's how my wife, Karen, described me in front of our family and friends at our daughter's graduation dinner. I'm Ethan Mallory, 54, operations manager at Fairpoint Logistics in Asheville, North Carolina. I handle crises every day, but nothing prepared me for the script Karen had orchestrated until I handed her the envelope. I'd spent over 20 years being the steady, reliable husband. I worked 60-hour weeks at Fairpoint to provide the lifestyle Karen wanted. The colonial house in the suburbs, the cabin in the mountains, the boat that we took out 3 times a year. I was the man who showed up, who stayed, who built. I was there for every one of Maya's soccer games, science fairs, and late-night study sessions. I was the one who taught her to change a tire and balance a checkbook. Karen started changing about a year ago. It began with the gym membership, then the new wardrobe, then the constant references to emotional growth and living authentically. She'd come home later and later from her sessions with her personal trainer. There were new friends I'd never met, weekend retreats I wasn't invited to. I noticed. Of course I did. But I kept telling myself that marriage has seasons, that this was just a phase. The restaurant Karen chose for Maya's graduation dinner was upscale. White tablecloths, crystal glasses that rang when you tapped them, waiters who appeared and disappeared like ghosts. My daughter looked beautiful that evening, radiant with accomplishment. Her newly minted business degree, the start of everything she'd worked for. I was so proud of her, of the woman she'd become despite the growing tension in our home. We were halfway through the main course when Karen clinked her glass with her fork. The conversation around our large table, filled with Maya's grandparents, aunts, uncles, and closest friends, died down. Karen stood, champagne flute in hand, her black dress hugging her gym-sculpted body. "I have an announcement to make," she said, her voice carrying the practiced confidence of someone who had rehearsed this moment. "Today is about new beginnings, about stepping into your authentic future." She glanced at Maya, who was looking increasingly confused. "And I've decided it's time for my new beginning, too." My stomach tightened. I knew what was coming, had known for months. But the public stage she'd chosen still stunned me. "Ethan and I have had many good years," Karen continued, not looking at me. "But we've grown apart. I've changed. I need passion, emotional connection, a partner who really sees me." She took a breath. "Which is why I'm leaving Ethan for someone who makes me feel alive again." The silence around the table was absolute. My mother-in-law, Linda, had her hand over her mouth. My brother was staring at his plate. Maya's eyes had gone wide with shock. Karen pointed toward the bar. "Zach is here with me tonight. He's been my personal trainer for the past year, but he's become so much more." A tall, muscular man in his 30s lifted his drink in acknowledgement. He had the decency to look uncomfortable. "We're in love, and we're starting our life together. Tonight." She turned to me. "Finally. I'm sorry, Ethan, but this is my truth. I hope you can find someone more compatible with your nature." Everyone was looking at me now, waiting for the explosion, the scene, the drama that would give them something to talk about for years. Karen wanted it too, wanted me to play the role of the devastated, blindsided husband. Instead, I smiled, reached into my jacket pocket, and pulled out a white envelope. I stood and handed it to her. "What's this?" she asked, smile faltering. "Open it," I said calmly, "since we're sharing tonight." Karen's hands trembled slightly as she tore open the envelope. Her eyes scanned the first page, then widened. She flipped to the second page, then the third. The color drained from her face. No, she whispered. You can't. Why don't you share it with everyone? I suggested, my voice level. You seemed eager for an audience a moment ago. What's going on? Maya asked, looking between us. Karen was still staring at the papers, speechless. I'll explain, I said. The first document is our post-nuptial agreement, which Karen signed 7 years ago when she wanted to start her interior design business. It has a very specific infidelity clause. You wouldn't, Karen hissed. The second document, I continued, is a statement showing the transfer of funds into a trust for Maya, and the third is notification that Karen's access to our joint accounts has been revoked as of this morning. Karen's face contorted with rage and panic. You had no right! I had every legal right, I said. Read page 3 aloud. Karen, since tonight is about truth. Her hands were shaking so badly now that the papers rattled. This is karma, I finished for her. 6 months ago, I found the hotel receipt in Karen's purse while looking for a pen. The Four Seasons, downtown, charged to our joint credit card. I didn't confront her. Instead, I called my old college friend, Greg Torres, who happened to be one of the best divorce attorneys in the state. Don't let emotion drive this. Greg had advised, if she's planning to leave you, she's been planning it for a while. We need to be methodical. And methodical we were. I quietly moved funds into accounts she couldn't access. I transferred ownership of our mountain cabin and boat to Maya through perfectly legal channels allowed by the post-nuptial agreement. I documented every suspicious absence, every unexplained expense. I hired a private investigator who provided photographic evidence of Karen and Zach's affair. All the while, I pretended not to notice anything. I worked my long hours. I asked about her day. I attended social functions as the dutiful husband. I was waiting for her to be honest with me, to have the decency to end things privately. Instead, she chose public humiliation. You can't do this to me, Karen was shouting now, causing heads to turn at neighboring tables. 22 years of marriage, and this is how you respond? By stealing everything? I didn't steal anything, I replied calmly. I protected what I worked for, what I built for our family. Mom, what did you do? Maya's voice was small, hurt. Karen spun toward our daughter. Maya, honey, your father is twisting everything. Zach and I, we didn't mean for this to happen. It was an emotional connection that just started in hotel rooms 6 months ago, I interrupted. While I was working overtime to pay for your weekend retreats? Is that true? Maya asked her mother. Karen's strategy shifted. Her face softened into practiced vulnerability. Sweetheart, marriages are complicated. Your father and I haven't connected emotionally for years. He's always working, always distant. I needed someone who could see me, understand me. Maya stood up slowly. So you decided to announce you're leaving Dad at my graduation dinner? This was supposed to be my night. I thought it would be better to have family around, to show that new beginnings are... To have witnesses, I corrected. To control the narrative, to make sure everyone heard your version first. Karen glared at me, then looked desperately toward the bar. Zach, come over here, please! Zach hesitated, clearly reluctant to step into the middle of this family meltdown, but eventually made his way to our table. Tell them, Karen urged. Tell them how real this is between us. Zach shifted uncomfortably. Look, I think this should be handled privately. I didn't know this was going to happen tonight. You didn't know? I asked, genuinely curious. He shook his head. Karen said we were just coming to support Maya's graduation. I wouldn't have agreed to this. Public announcement. Karen stared at him in disbelief. Zach, we talked about this. About starting fresh. Being open. Not like this, he said quietly. This is A lot. Karen turned to her mother. Mom, you understand, don't you? Sometimes people grow apart. Sometimes you have to choose happiness. Linda stood up, her face lined with disappointment. Karen, I raised you better than this. To humiliate your husband and ruin your daughter's celebration? This isn't choosing happiness. This is selfishness. If you're going to destroy this family, Maya said, her voice stronger now, at least be honest about it. Don't pretend this is about emotional growth or whatever. You cheated. You lied. And now you're trying to make Dad look like the villain. Karen's face crumpled, the script falling apart around her. Zach, please, she whispered. Say something. He leaned in and whispered, I think we should leave. What? Karen's voice rose an octave. No, you can't. We're supposed to. But Zach was already backing away. I'll call you tomorrow. This is too much drama for me. As he walked out, Karen's face registered genuine shock. This wasn't how her story was supposed to unfold. She was supposed to be the heroine, breaking free from an emotionless marriage into the arms of her passionate lover. Instead, she was standing alone, papers in hand, facing the wreckage of her carefully constructed exit. The house? She asked weakly, looking back at the documents. Transferred to Maya last month, I replied. The post-nup allows it. My alimony? Greg, who had been sitting quietly at the far end of the table, invited as my old friend, cleared his throat. The infidelity clause negates spousal support. Karen, Ethan's attorney, that would be me, has substantial evidence. You'd lose in court. Karen's eyes darted around the table, searching for a sympathetic face, but finding none. Maya had tears streaming down her cheeks. Maya. Karen tried one last time. You understand that people make mistakes, right? This doesn't change how much I love you. You'll still come home for Christmas, spend time with me and Zach. I don't think so. Mom, Maya said quietly. Not this year. I stood up and placed a gentle hand on my daughter's shoulder. I think we should go. Maya nodded and gathered her purse. I left enough cash on the table to cover the bill and a generous tip for the waitstaff who had witnessed this spectacle. As we walked out, I heard Karen call my name one last time, her voice breaking. I didn't turn around. The woman I had loved for more than 2 decades had disappeared long before tonight. The stranger in her place had made her choice. 6 months later, I was fixing the fence around our, now Maya's, property when my daughter came out with 2 beers. She handed me one and leaned against the post I had just secured. Dad, Mom called again, she said after a moment. I took a long pull from the bottle. What did she want? The usual, asking if you'd consider giving her another chance. She said she's realized what she threw away. I couldn't help but laugh. And what did you tell her? That she should stop calling, that it's over. Maya hesitated. She also mentioned that Zach broke up with her, said she was too much drama, and not as hot as he thought once the excitement wore off. I shook my head. I'm not happy about that. Maya raised an eyebrow. Really? Really, I said. Because her happiness was never the point. My self-respect was. I hammered another nail into the fence post. I spent 22 years believing in something that wasn't real. The moment I found that hotel receipt, I had a choice. Let her betrayal destroy me, or take back control of my life. You never lost it, Maya said, bumping my shoulder with hers. I always knew who the strong one was. I smiled at my daughter, so perceptive, so resilient. We're going to be okay, you know. I know, she said, clinking her bottle against mine. We already are. Karen had planned to humiliate me with her grand gesture, her public declaration of my inadequacy. She thought she was escaping to something better, leaving me devastated in her wake. But I didn't fight her with anger or vengeance. I fought her with preparation. She'd crafted her exit strategy, never imagining I had one of my own. She'd planned her soft landing with Zach, never considering I was arranging her hard landing into reality. In the end, I didn't need drama or public scenes. I just needed her to face the consequence of her choices, not in the fantasy she'd constructed, but in the real world where actions have weight and permanence, where trust, once broken, reveals what was always beneath the surface. The fence was solid now, freshly painted and straight. Maya and I stood in comfortable silence, watching the sunset over the mountains. I had lost a wife, but kept my dignity, and somehow, that made all the difference.